Brett, and good evening. Today's announcement is the culmination of a 5-day manhunt that began Monday in the greater New York area and ended 1,000 miles away in South Florida, drawing on more than a dozen federal agencies led by the Secret Service and FBI.
We have arrested Cesar Sayoc in connection with this investigation.
The 56-year-old suspect was arrested in South Florida and is now facing 5 federal criminal counts for sending explosives through the mail and targeting current and former Democratic politicians.
This is utterly unacceptable. Political violence or the threat of violence is antithetical to our vigorous system of self-government.
Federal investigators seized his van, covering it with a blue tarp, concealing pro-Trump stickers. Sayoc's social media accounts also praising Republicans, slamming Democrats, and showcasing videos of himself appearing at Trump rallies. The Attorney General was pressed on why Sayoc singled out Democrats and at least one powerful party donor.
He may have been appears to be a partisan, but that would be determined by the facts.
The break in the case came when an FBI lab identified a latent fingerprint on one of the suspicious package envelopes addressed to Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters. 2 additional pieces of DNA evidence from other packages matched Sayoc, who was already in a law enforcement database because of his past criminal activity.
The work of the men and women of law enforcement here and the work that was done over the last week is something that should make every American proud and grateful.
Another device was discovered today in California, addressed to Democratic Senator Kamala Harris, and in New York City addressed to CNN contributor and former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper. The FBI director emphasized the devices, now more than a dozen, intercepted on the East and West Coast, were dangerous, not a hoax, laying out new details of their construction.
Each device consisted of roughly 6 inches of PVC pipe, a small clock, a battery, some wiring, and what is known as energetic material.
A conviction on the 5 federal criminal charges, which could expand as the investigation progresses, carries a prison term of up to 48 years.
The defendant's conduct as charged is cowardly and reprehensible and totally anathema to our democracy.
In the last few minutes, we have learned that Sayoc will have his first court appearance in Miami on Monday. Earlier, a federal source told Fox that after that initial court appearance in Miami, Sayoc is expected to be transferred to New York City and prosecuted there. Nearly half of the packages were routed through the greater New York City area. Brett.
You know, Catherine, the news conference was pretty detailed. They said that they were still investigating whether he had any help with anybody else. But what else was kind of left out of that?
What we never really got to was the issue of premeditation. Was this something that he did over several weeks himself, so making him a lone actor in this offense, or was it done very quickly, which would suggest that he may have had help from someone who was witting or unwitting in this plot?
Okay, Catherine, we'll follow it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to bring in Kansas Republican Congressman Kevin Yoder with us now. And, sir, you're in a re-election battle yourself 11 days from now. Kudos to law enforcement. It appears, at the moment, job well done.
Yeah, that's right. The Joint Terrorism Task Force, made up of the FBI, the U.S. Secret Service, ATF, the Mail Inspection Service, they've been working around the clock trying to catch this perpetrator that started earlier this week. We've got the 12th alleged package found this morning, and to find that we are finally captured this guy down in Florida, I think it brings a relief to the folks serving in office. News agencies. I mean, the amount of folks that are being targeted here, our heart goes out to them, whether you're Republican or Democrat. This is despicable, these domestic acts of terrorism. And so we've had the Joint Terrorism Task Force working around the clock. I talked to the director of the Secret Service yesterday. They were confident that they were bearing down on the perpetrator, and that the more packages he was sending, the easier it was going to make it for them to ultimately catch him.
Yeah, sir, I'm just reading a tweet from the White House West Wing. The president says this: I will be speaking at the Young Black Leadership Summit in 15 minutes, where I will address the investigation into the bomb packages. We've seen a live picture from inside the White House, and when he comes to the microphone, we'll bring that to our viewers. The other information you have there is that you've been in touch with law enforcement through this. What else were they telling you as this investigation unfolded, sir?
Well, they weren't really revealing a lot of the information because, of course, they didn't want to tip off the potential suspect that they were working towards apprehending him. But certainly that they felt that there was a lot of evidence that was being compiled based upon the magnitude or the multitude of packages that had been sent. And so clearly he's left a trail here. And I know that the Secret Service director and others that were working on this had the full effort of law enforcement. They badly wanted to find this man and make sure that he was arrested. As you were mentioning earlier on the program, the terror that this has been infecting, the American people with, whether it's mail facilities or congressional offices or media buildings. This is something that we had to find quickly and put a stop to. And so I think we're all somewhat relieved that we found this immediately, that we found this gentleman, this awful individual, and bringing him to justice. Suspect, yeah, and we're going to try to bring him to justice.
Last question from me on this. The president tweeted about an hour ago that the story had been distracting voters, and he even suggested that the early voting returns have been very good for Republicans. Do you think that this has been a distraction of sorts?
Well, I think it's been more than anything, I think it's been a horrible chapter in politics in which someone has been, alleged suspect's been sending packages to elected officials, scaring them and their families and their co-workers. And so more than anything, we were just focused on how we bring justice here, how we stop these packages from being sent. And so certainly 11 days left in the election, there are a lot of important issues, but this sort of went beyond the election and was more going to the heart of keeping people safe and bringing domestic terrorists to justice.
You're in one of these toss-up districts, suburbs of Kansas City, etc. What have your constituents been saying about this? How have they been viewing this from Middle America?
Well, I think they see this as the further angering of American politics. People on both sides are very angry about the political discourse in this country. I'm someone who's been trying to really lead on that. I co-chair the Civility Caucus with a Democratic colleague from the state of Missouri. We try to bring Congress together. When the shooting happened in Washington, D.C. last year, where members of Congress, Republican members of Congress, were shot at, we took that horrible tragedy and the attack on Steve Scalise in particular and used that as a moment to try to bring this country together. That anybody in either political party that has any sort of political axe to grind, we cannot let these angry words, this caustic political atmosphere turn into violence. And that's what we're seeing, with these packages being sent, and that's what we saw last year in that baseball field. So I don't think that this violence knows political boundaries. It doesn't know Republicans and Democrats. It can strike either way, and that's why we all must be unified in speaking out against it.
Kevin Yoder, thank you. The Republican Congressional District number 3 in Kansas. Sir, thank you for your time and your commentary on this as we watch yet another slow drive, Sandra, the 4th one so far this week.
Thomas Baker now. He served as a special agent for more than 30 years and as a management instructor at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. It's good to see you.
Good to be with you.
Man, the speed with which these investigators worked is mighty impressive.
It certainly is. The FBI in this matter did what they do best. They investigated.
And it sounds like, well, to hear it from the FBI, a fingerprint initially and then a couple of DNA samples.
Yes, and what hasn't been commented on enough is the improvements we've had, and this whole country's benefited from, in forensics over the last decade. The FBI CJIS division in West Virginia, it was really a focus for all of this, and that hasn't been mentioned yet. They maintain this tremendous repository of the 10 prints and all the latent prints that are collected. And the technology now exists where they can search that single latent print that they found on that bomb fragment against these millions of latents and come up with an answer in minutes. That technology didn't exist 5 years ago, and that's why so many of the earlier bombing cases took so long to solve, but not this one.
Interesting. And at the same time, they have vast improvements in the ability to track packages and where they've been. That led them to that Opelika, that South Florida package distribution center mighty fast.
Yes, and that's a good point, too, because one of the partners in this that hasn't gotten enough praise is the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. They're a very specialized, or rather small but specialized, federal law enforcement agency, and they also played a big role in this partnership.
The investigative part of this is just beginning. What's next?
Well, now, on the one hand, you had the early collection of all the forensic information. Now it's going to switch to a historical investigation, looking back at this guy beginning yesterday and going back years, all his contacts, all his friends, all his associates, all his organizations, to find out, to leave no stone unturned. And one of the things they're going to be looking for is if possibly there was anybody else involved who helped him, assisted him, or encouraged him.
And I bet we'll know soon enough. Thomas Baker, appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Russia is so important. I mean, the idiotic Russian reset that then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was talking about was completely ineffectual. It's not just that the Russians only understand strength. It's not quite that. But the Russians have to respect your ability to push back and to know that you're serious about what you're doing. That's what makes what we're doing now so different than what the Obama administration tried to do. Isn't that right?
Of course, and if you want collusion, I mean, the Obamas, their entire administration on down were the ones that colluded with Russia, and still probably are in some ways. You look at the uranium, sales. You look at what's going on with the Trump dossier, et cetera. I mean, there was intricate interaction with the Russian security services by the Obama administration against a political candidate. And so it's just amazing to me that people don't get that still, or they don't want to, I guess.
Todd, how do folks find out more about what you're up to, the good work that you're doing? Hey, listen, how do I get in touch with you when I want to talk Russian with you?
You can always go to Tsarizm.com, TSARIZM, and contact us there, or on my website, ltoddwood.com. You can contact me. Is the easiest way, and look at our books and everything.
We will make sure that we have those links up on the various pages. Todd, thank you so much for joining us today.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Take care. Cheers.
Listen, he lays it out. I get it. It would be incredibly provocative for the FSB, the Russian, what used to be the KGB, the Russian foreign intelligence establishment to go after and engage in something like this. Nevertheless, it is important to talk about. By the way, you can always tweet at me, at Andrew_Langer on Twitter. Got this from Sebastian Russo on Twitter. He's got a piece here that says, who is sending the bombs? This is a more important picture here. Why will the bombers never be found? Because the same people who mailed the bombs are the same people investigating the bombs. Listen, I'm not sure. I don't believe it's the FBI doing it. Nevertheless, on the other hand, the idea that the Democratic establishment doesn't want the bombers to be found, that is a distinct possibility here. And listen, we're sort of watching this. I'm watching this on TV. We've got this 11th and 12th packages that are found. If you haven't found that out, there is one package addressed to James Clapper that was found in New York. A package that was addressed to Cory Booker found in Florida. So that's sort of what we're watching here. What I don't understand, I still don't understand. Maybe this is just because the FBI hasn't released it yet. But how packages without any kind of a postmark, how they were able to track those to Florida and how they're finding them there. I find it also very odd that this is one of the bizarre twists, that the package that was being sent to, hold on, let me make sure I got this in my notes. The package that was being sent to Eric Holder was somehow returned to Debbie Wasserman Schultz's office. That's bizarre to me. In any case, when we come back, we're going to be taking your phone calls, 855-40-LAURA, 855-40-LAURA. That's the phone number here. Also reading more of your tweets to me. Tweet at me, at Andrew_Langer on Twitter. I'm Andrew Langer, sitting in for Laura Ingraham today. We'll be right back.
I wanted to say that, and I thought your guest was amazing. On Tuesday, when this all started breaking out, I thought for sure, instantly, that this was the left trying to change the narrative and had nothing to do with the Republicans at all. I don't think the Republicans or the right would even stoop to something like this, sending bombs. I think that with the caravan, the mob mentality, the Kavanaugh effect, I think in the midterms coming on, I really believe, and I'm really happy to hear on your show today, that people are starting to question other sources, but even the left. I really believe it was the left that did this. I don't think it was the Russians.
No, I mean, listen, it is, as I said, Occam's razor suggests that the most likely explanation is the correct one, and I'm a firm believer in that. And the reality is, listen, historically speaking, it has always been the so-called progressives, the leftists, the Marxists, who have chosen to use bombs as their tactic for terror. And this goes back more than 100 years. I'm sure that if I had talked to Todd about sort of the proto-Marxist movements in America back at the late 19th, early 20th century, you think about the various anarchist movements that were out there and the fact that they were quite literal. I mean, the concept of bomb throwing comes from this. So listen, David, I appreciate I appreciate the call. I want to go to Twitter real quick. As I said, will you tweet at me at Andrew_Langer on Twitter? And as I said, I will read every tweet, even the most critical ones. This one from My Patriot Gal. Andrew, good stuff, but can you be a little less excitable? I'm trying to peel myself off the ceiling listening to you. I appreciate that, Patriot Gal. Listen, I am just so thrilled to be here sitting in for Laura today. So that excitement is going to come through. And listen, these are heady issues. These are important issues. So I tend to get a little excited talking about this. I will try to tone it down for you, or at least move a little bit further away from your radio, so I'm not making you jump up on the ceiling. Listen, let's go to Steve in Michigan. Steve, welcome to the Laura Ingraham Show.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, Steve. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Hey, listen, about the postmarkings on those packages, if the guy was smart, he would have put the postage, the appropriate amount of postage on them and put them in the drop box outside. So when they get to the distribution center, they're going to find the package and get ready to sort it and postmark it. And then when they grab that package and they see it, they'll immediately take that package out of the system before it even gets postmarked.
Well, sure. Well, that certainly explains the one that was the ones that were found in Florida, the Cory Booker one, certainly. But in terms of the ones that were already at CNN, went to George Soros and went to Clinton, et cetera, those were delivered. Well, I guess they came through a sorting facility, but at some point, at the point of entry, they would have been postmarked. They wouldn't have been postmarked at the point of distribution, right? That's the whole point of having a postmark, is so that you know the origin, the source of the post office where they came out of. Isn't that right? I'm Andrew Langer, sitting in for Laura Ingraham. At Andrew_Langer is my Twitter handle, so please go and check that out there. In the meantime, as I said, taking your phone calls, let's go to Ed in Florida. Ed, you've been waiting patiently. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
Hey, I've been hearing, a lot of the comments coming in and stuff like that, and a lot of great stuff. A lot of speculation. I'm absolutely conservative, first of all.
Yeah.
I think the liberals, they're cracking me up. They're funny. But one thing I've noticed to listen to all this is a funny word, and I believe it's called irony.
Yes.
Now, we've got all these bombs and everything else going around, and everybody knows it's the conservatives, or no, it's absolutely the liberals. It's a big hoax. 15 minutes ago, we were talking about a guy by the name of Kavanaugh.
Sure.
We were really upset because there was a lot of hatred, a lot of anger, and he was already guilty with no evidence. We've received no information.
Yeah, okay.
We don't know anything of where any of this is coming from.
And this is, but there's a big difference here, right?